And I encourage you all to also please share this story. We're also recording it. So if anybody wants a recording afterwards, please just let me know and I'll send you the recording. Just a few words of introduction. These are my cousins. And since everybody's asked me how, Imbal's dad and my grandma were actually first cousins. But Imbal's grandpa was my grandma's favorite uncle, and I heard about him all the time. So it sounds very far, but we feel very close. Over all the years I've traveled to Israel, Imbal and I have lots of history and stories together. And her father is one of the founders of Kibbutz Be'eri. She was born and raised on Kibbutz Be'eri. This is her husband, Lior. He's been living on Kibbutz Be'eri for many years with Imbal, and they've raised
to the middle,
so
they can see you.
There are 4 sons there. So here we have Amos, and that's Dan walking over there. And there's Asaf over here. And there's Yotam, who is relaxing. And there are 2 sets of twins. So I know some of my friends here have 3 boys and you thought you had it rough. 2 sets of twins. So, and that's it. And then the last comment, and it's certainly up to you, but if anyone feels inspired after, there are flyers with a QR code for an opportunity if you want to donate to the kibbutz to help them with the rebuild effort. There's one tap to the gate, and there's a bunch all over. So please, if you feel like you want to afterwards, that's available. And that's it. I will turn it over to Leo. To Inbal. The more important one. The wedding. Nein, בסדר.
Okay, good evening. I want to start by saying something. Okay. In the first months after the tragedy, we were together in a hotel by the Dead Sea. Yotam is one of our sons, arrived from Japan about a week after the fellowship. And although we were together, we were part of a broken and shattered community stunned by grief. Each of us was active in something, and we weren't really together as a family. After the funerals were over, we dispersed.
You're doing great.
And would meet for dinner on Friday here and there. With the move to Hatzerim, where we are now, in January this year, we somewhat found a home, but not really. The kids come here and there, usually not staying overnight because the apartment is small and it's not possible. Sherry and Shuki have been urging us for over a year to come to them. And we couldn't imagine that happening until the time was right. And we decided to go for it and embrace the opportunity that was given to us. All the boys chose to come, and Leo and I were excited at the thought of being together as a family again, and we won't deny that we were also anxious. It's hard to describe how grateful we are to the Lehavi family for the warmth and generosity with which they welcomed us, truly gathering us into their embrace to try to ease our sorrow and pain. You help us feel the sense of family and love again. And the days we are experiencing here as a family because of you are the most beautiful, pleasant, and healing days we have had since the tragedy. So once again, we want to express our deep and thoughtful
heartfelt gratitude for this rare opportunity you've allowed us and for welcoming us into your home and your heart. It's not taken for granted, and we appreciate you more than words can express. We love and cherish you for everything you've done and continue to do for us.
Thank you.
Hi, first I want to say that we're not like professional at this. It's our second time we're doing this. The first time was 2 days ago in Novato. So we had some practice, but going easy on us. As you heard, our English is not.
Your English is better than most of their Hebrew, so it's fine.
So also, no. And last, before we start, I just want to say the story you will hear today, it's at the end of the day a story of, good luck and miracles and survival. But for the most families from our kibbutz and from all the region, October 7th is not a story of survival, it's a story of death. So it's important you remember this at all time when I'm speaking, or we are speaking. So you can see early, but you can see photo of our neighborhood. It was the most western neighborhood of the kibbutz, the Vineyard. It's before October 7th, of course, and thereafter. So, since October 7th, every time we speak about Be'eri, it's obviously about October 7th and everything that happened. But for us, it's really important that people know Be'eri, the people know Be'eri, as it was before. Because before October 7th, we had a saying about Be'eri that it's 95% heaven and 5% hell. Because when the rockets, there aren't any rockets from Gaza, it really was a heaven, a very green place, happy place, a lot of children living in harmony. It's a socialist school, which means, we have no like salaries and stuff like this. We have a dining room, shared cars, laundry, and, really sharing everything. So it was founded on October 6, 1946. That's why we had like a celebration on Friday evening, October 6, for the kibbutz. And that's why a lot of us came to Be'eri, even though we weren't living there at that time. So a lot of people who left Be'eri but came to celebrate were either killed or kidnapped that day. And before October 7th, we were 200 people there. And 102 were murdered, 30 were taken hostage. And until today we have 6 murdered hostages still in Gaza. So this is us. I think we did there. I've shared presented us before, so I won't do it, but you can see us in happier times. Okay, so now we're really starting. This is a picture of the kibbutz from above. Okay, Gaza is to the west, and the tourists came in through this part, the west part of the kibbutz, and through the main gate there. Okay, it's hard to see, but the red dots are like normal scenes. The yellow ones are where people were taken to Gaza from. This is my parents' house, where our main story takes place. Here you can see it's the first house where the tourists saw when they came in. This circle, this circle represents the apartment Alon, okay, on the morning of that day. Later on, at around 11:30 a.m., I was there alone. Never mind, I decided to run to this apartment. It's about 200 meters of a run. Wasn't that smart, I can tell you now, but eventually I'm standing here, so I won't think about it twice. As you can see, red means the terrorists were there, like significantly. And at the end of the day, all of the doors in Be'eri will try to be opened by the terrorists. Okay, even in these areas were terrorists, but in the red zone, like, I don't know, it's something like 80% of the kibbutz were completely held by the terrorists for the most day. So we'll start, 6:29 a.m. First alarm, the attack starts. The first red alert, it's very normal to us. Red alert is like the alarm they sound when the rockets are coming. And it's really normal, there's a red alert, we have 15 seconds to go to the safe room. We're staying there for a minute, two, hearing the explosion and then coming out. It's normal, unfortunately, but it happens. But very quickly we understand that today something is different. At 6:22, 3 minutes after, I wrote a text message to my girlfriend, and I wrote to her that something else is going on, because I heard a lot of rockets, a lot of alarms, and we realized that it's not normal. Okay, 3 minutes after. So here you can see the ones that really didn't move. If not, I'll just tell it shortly. These are the messages. We have like a group texting of the Vineyard neighborhood, okay, the most western part of the kibbutz. And the people, they're starting to write that the terrorists are there and they're trying to go inside the house and they're shooting at them, okay? There are people who wrote at the beginning, like someone will come to help or something like this, and then stop writing because they were murdered. There are people who later on, Oad Ben Ami, he wrote, the terrorists are here, I love you all. They're taking me to Gaza and Israel. Okay, and then he stopped answering. Okay.
إسرائيل يا جماعة من جوا المستوطنات من داخل المستوطنات بإيري ها ضرب ضاع لمه
We call it in Telegram. The first one you can see, okay, all of this area is supposed to be with a fence, but there was no fence there. They did like a 40-meter bridge at the fence with the bulldozer. And the first house you see, this is our house. Okay, this is our house. We are like, it's a duplex. Okay, so this is our house. The second one is from our house. The terrorist is stepping on the Israeli flag and he's saying, I'm in the settlement of Be'eri. Look at how rich they are. Okay, and then you can put it again, maybe. He's stepping on the flag. This is our house. My family is in the safety. Okay. Okay. So this is the texting between my mom and Lilach. Lilach was our neighbor next door. They talked through all that morning, and then she stopped answering. So maybe you tell.
Lilach, she was our neighbor at the next duplex. But she also was one of my best friends because in the kibbutz, you know that we are growing together. We didn't sleep with the parents. We are sleeping all the kids together. So Lilach, when I said she's one of she's for my class or for my team, as I reach like a sister, okay? And she lived next to our door with her husband, Tari, and the daycare, Paul, because Tari was have a disease, autoimmune disease that he needs help. So the three of them was in the mamad, in the safe room, sorry. And she texted to me if we are in the safe room, and I answer her. And she said, like in 7 in the morning, when they were near our houses, she said that she thinks that there is soldiers from the police or from the army. I said, how do you know? And she said that Paul, the daycare, opened the window and he saw, and she thinks that the soldiers are already here. It wasn't true, okay? Nobody came till, I think, 8 or 9 in the evening. But we couldn't imagine that this would happen, that a lot of terrorists will come into the kibbutz and no one will come to help us. So we thought, like it's going to be 1 hour, 2 hours, the army will come and something will happen. And she thought it's soldiers. And I think like in 9 o'clock a.m., she didn't answer me yet. And she said that because there were groups that come into her house and then go out, and then come another group, and there were a silence between. And I asked her what this silence is, and she said it's scary. And she was a very strong woman. And when she said scared, I said it's really scary. So the 3 of them were murdered. We thought they are hostages, but after 2 weeks, it came out that they are being murdered.
Yeah, just to add on it, so Tilak, she's my mother, was my mother's best friend, and her son is my best friend. So we talked through all that day, and he asked me to tell my family to go check on his parents because they were not answering, but they obviously couldn't. As my mom said, for 2 weeks or even 3, we thought they are hostages. Their sons flew to the Vatican to meet with the Pope. They were very vocal, trying to fight for their parents. But then after 3 weeks, we learned that they were killed, murdered. And Nadav, their son, when he called me to tell me the news, actually, I need to tell a story for this. So the story is that both of the families, when we moved to this neighborhood, like 6 years ago, both of the families wanted the west part of the western house, okay? Because the balcony turns to the fields, to Gaza, to the sunset. It's much more beautiful than the east house. And so both of the family wanted the house, and we did like a drawing between me and Nadav, their son, and I lost it. And my family was very angry at me, or with me, that I lost them the western house. So when he called me to tell me they've been murdered, he told me, you lost that bet, but you won life. So now it's my father's time to shine. I'll just tell you, like, we're going to tell you chronologically what happened, like only our story on that day. But in headlines, so 6:29, the attack starts. Little bit later, the terrorist comes inside our house, of course, trying to open the safe room door. Then they light the house on fire, going back, and then at 11:40 was the rescue. Okay, so now we're done.
Okay. This used to be our house, okay? And Gaza Strip is over here, the tower, Gaza Tower is over here. And okay, and in the morning, we understand later that the terrorists brought a big tractor and ran over the fence over here, and then they made a huge hole all over the corner, a huge hole, and many terrorists came to the kibbutz through this hole in the fence. And when they came to the kibbutz, inside the first house that they saw, it's our house. And we were very lucky to stay alive. We wasn't supposed to stay alive because all our neighbors murder all around here, and especially in this neighborhood. It's next by neighborhood, Olive neighborhood. Everybody over here, all these blocks, everybody murdered. People a little older than us, just quit a job and had young grandchildren, and just woke up in the morning. Supposed to celebrate the main event of kibbutz celebration, but start hearing a lot of firing and Arabics. They came into the houses and killed everybody. And our neighbor also, this is Benami's house. They kidnapped from the house. Many people from Be'eri, nobody expect terrorists to come into the kibbutz. Nobody believe it. That can happen. So many people from Be'eri, they didn't know that you need to fight for your life on the handle of the safe room. And they didn't know. And the terrorists came into the house and just opened gently the door and take them to Gaza. Take them through the hall in the fence, less than 10 minutes. They are in the car waited for them, and they are inside Gaza. Nobody can find them. So, okay. 6:30 in the morning, we wake up. We wake up because there is a lot of missiles in the sky, a lot of noise, and we wake up. We were 5 people at the house, and wake up and gather in the living room, and the missiles never stops. As I usually do, I going outside to the balcony and watch the sky, like a 4th of July, watch the missile. We are not afraid of missiles so much. And I'm outside watching the missiles, and I'm thinking to myself, usually it's only 3 to 5 missiles, 30 minutes, 30 seconds, and it's over, nothing happened. We continue our normal life. This time I'm outside 10 to 15 minutes, and it's never stopped. I think to myself that it's very strange why they never stop firing missiles. And after like 15 minutes, we have like in Be'eri, we have the red alarm. We call it the big alarm in the ramparts, and we have 15 seconds to go into the safe room. And for me, it's only a recommendation. I'm not to the safe room because I'm not afraid of missiles so much. So I'm outside. I'm walking slowly into the house, and I'm not running to the safe room because it's nothing. And when I'm entering to the house, because I'm not in a hurry, I'm looking all over the windows over here, and over here next to our neighbor, standing a guy with a special uniform, standing with a weapon like that, and he's just standing and looking all around, not doing anything. And I went inside to the safe room, and I told my family, I saw a guy over here, IDF guy, and why is over there? What is he's doing so early inside the kibbutz? Why is he? And we're in the safe room, and in a few minutes we start hear a lot of firing all over the neighborhood, on dog, or maybe over here they fire to this house, and a lot of firing. And in a few minutes, we start to hear a lot of shouting in Arabic. And when I understand that I was very dumb to think that was one of us, and it was a terrorist. Later on, I understand that it was the first terrorist who penetrated into the kibbutz. But I didn't know that in that time. So when this firing is starting, I understand I was very dumb and naive to think it was one of us. And we need to get ready for the war because I understand that we are in the middle of crisis over there. And in a few minutes, we start to hear a lot of shouting and glass breaking from this way. And at least 10 guys come to visit us, 10 terrorists come to visit us inside the house. And okay. And they're coming into the house and they start doing a lot of mess, stealing whatever they can find, open the refrigerator, eating because they were hungry for 4 in the morning, and playing the kids' piano. They mentally abuse us a little bit, stealing and running up and down the stairs to steal whatever they can find, kid stuff. And when they finish all the robbing and stealing and everything, they are coming towards our safe room and try to open it. We unfortunately we have three. I have 2 kids with me in that morning. It's Asaf and Dan and Asaf girlfriend and Inbal and I 5 people inside. And when the terrorists come to the safe room door, my 2 kids helped me to hold the handle. And we had a big fight on the handle with the terrorists. They tried to open and we hold it strong, and they tried to open again and we had a big fight on the handle, and they couldn't break into the safe room. And when they couldn't break into the safe room, they did what they did all over the neighborhood. They just make a big fire in our house. They wanted us to jump out from the window, and they can kill us easily because they're all around, many terrorists all around the neighborhood. And of course, I told my family, if you go out, you die. You don't. And when they light a fire in our house, we were very afraid and worried what we'll do. The house is on fire on us, and I tell my boys, we stay inside until we could, and until then we don't play anything. And then here I want to stop for a second to tell about our neighbor from over here. And parents, a very good friend of us that we love very much. They are the best neighbor that a guy can ask. They tell us the same, coming to their house and try to break in, and they couldn't break in, so they make a big fire in the house. And unfortunately, they have a crossfire fire because all the house fires on fire, but they have a kitchen outside over here. And it's all wooden kitchen, and it's all burn also. So they have a crossfire into the safe room, and they had no choice. They have 2 choices: either to die inside the house or to jump from the window and hope for the best. And of course, you need to pray because many terrorists outside, and it's not so. And they had no choice but to jump out. They jumped out through the safe room window. And the guy opens the window and he saw terrorists in front of him. He had a pistol, he shot him, and he grabbed the terrorists underneath the window because they were all barefooted, and to walk on fire, it's not so nice. And he grabbed the terrorists underneath the window. All the family jumped and stepped on the terrorists and running around the house over here. They are lying between bushes inside. And I stopped for a second because all of us in Be'eri were sure that after half an hour or maybe an hour, the IDF will come and rescue us and we'll be okay. But they jumped from the window after 5.5 hours. Of course, no IDF coming. And they are lying inside the bushes another 1.5 hours. So after 7 hours, a lot of WhatsApp, what's happening, why nobody come to rescue us? And unfortunately, after 1.5 hours that they're lying in the bushes, terrorists came back, saw the family lying in the bushes, and just opened fire on them, killed our neighbor and the 2 older sons. They have 4 boys. Okay, they killed the parents, they killed the 2 older brother, and the 2 younger ones. They were on the ground underneath all the bodies. Okay, they didn't hit from the bullets. They called the lady from the second apartment over here, and they ran around. They knocked on the safe room window, and she had the jump into the safe room and they survive over there. And it's just in the beginning of the day, her husband called her and he said he was one of the first responding team. So he called her and he said, "I love you. I got shot, and I said goodbye to you. I love you. I love the kids." And he passed away. So she was very sad. She know many hours she have no husband, but she has the kids inside, and now she's responsible for two more kids that jump through the window, and they bring us fire in their house also, but they managed to survive over there. Okay, and so to our story, when they make a fire in our house, and they couldn't break, we were lucky that we are almost the only one who were alive from our area. We have some lucks. The first one that I think it was smart to decide to be quiet the whole time. Of course, the first terrorists who come into the house knew that we are there because we fight with them. But there is more and more terrorists come through the hall and they're coming and more terrorists into their houses. And we kept quiet that we wanted the terrorists weren't sure if we are there or not. Okay. And the other luck that we have, that the fire near the safe room wasn't so powerful like the rest of the house. So we could stay all the time inside. This guy told us to remember that we have a closet with towels inside the safe room. He told us to take the towels, put underneath the door. Of course, no water, no nothing, no clothes. But we have our pee, and we pee on the towels to be wet and less smoke come inside. And the last luck that we have, I think, you understand that. Not yet. You understand that when more terrorists come and see our house and house, but we all came to our house this way, and they come to our house very early in the morning. We suffer many hours, but I think I'm almost sure that in the beginning of the morning, the terrorists didn't know that the safe room door are not bulletproof. Okay, so they didn't shoot on our door, because if they would shoot, we were speaking today, but they didn't shoot on our door. When they go by and hours go by, they understand that the safe room door are not bulletproof, and they start shooting through the safe room doors and killing many people, as you understand. And we were lucky that early in the morning they didn't know that. So we managed to stay inside the safe room for 16 hours, not a nice 16 hours, terrifying 16 hours. But after 16 hours, eventually a special Navy SEALs came to rescue us, and they came into the house, and unfortunately they only look at the living room and everything everywhere else, but they didn't come and check in the safe room. They come inside first house in Berry, and they didn't. They were young and panic and hysteric, and they didn't know what they're supposed to do. And unfortunately, they didn't come and check if we're alive inside the safe room. And my son tell me, "You shut up. You don't." I hear good Hebrew, but my son tell me, "You shut up," because maybe they're not soldiers. You know many stories about that. So I shut up and waited. And when I hear the soldier said nobody's alive inside the house, and we need to keep going to find another survivor in other places. And when I hear the step going out, I knocked strongly on the door and I said, come here, we are here, and come and rescue us. And I knock on the door, so they hear the knocking. They coming toward us with a weapon ready to shoot, because they asked me some question if I'm sure this is our house, and if we are sure that we are okay, what our family name, and they were afraid that we are that terrorists penetrate into our safe room and all point a gun at us, and if I open the door, they shoot at them. They were hysteric and panic. And I swear that we are alone and we are okay. So they let me open the door. They rescue us through a special SUV that come to the grass over here. It come and especially for us. And we run into this SUV and they rescue us to the main gate. And later on, we understand that there are two brothers from a settlement in Judah and Samaria. This is you. Okay. And we were rescued.
Thank you. So you heard it from their perspective, in their house. Now I'll tell you it from my perspective, because as I said in the beginning, I was on another part of the kibbutz in an apartment. I was alone. And at the beginning, you know, when the rocket started, and I started to hear like guns firing and people shouting in Hebrew, like I got hit and stuff like this. But you know, I thought it's like one group of terrorists and everything will be okay. And I made like videos for my friends to see, look how cool it is. There are terrorists in the kibbutz, stuff like this. But then suddenly I started to hear shouts in Arabic and firing really close to me. So I decided, okay, now it's getting serious. I need to go inside the safe room. And when I went to the safe room, I tried to close the door, because the safe room door, you can either leave it wide open or close it like very strongly. So when I tried to close it, I realized that the manual of the door is broken and I can't close the door at all. So it left wide open. Then I got really scared. I tried to think what to do. Like I made a mess, a complete mess of the living room of the apartment. So if the terrorists would come in, they would think that someone was there already. Okay, I tried to hide underneath the bed inside the closet. But I very quickly understood that there's no place I can hide in, because there was no room for me. So I just thought the safe room was my brother's recording studio, something like this. So I had like a microphone holder, something like this. So I just sat inside the safe room near the entrance with the microphone holder above my head and just waited for the terrorists to come inside. I remember thinking to myself that I will never be kidnapped. Okay, I said to myself, I'm a young man. If they will take me to Gaza, I will never come back alive. I knew that right there. So I said to myself, okay, you have to fight for your life. If they're coming inside, you're just gonna fight until they kill you. You will never be gonna be kidnapped to Gaza. And I sat there for 5 hours, okay, alone like this. And the terrorists, you know, sometimes they came to the door, tried to open it, but then, like the apartment door, not the safe room door, okay? They understood it was locked, so they moved on. We think in Be'eri that the terrorists were very prepared for what they're gonna meet in the kibbutz, because they mainly went to the neighborhoods where the families were the big houses, where they knew there are a lot of people. In my neighborhood, it was like the young people's neighborhood, like small apartments for only 1 or 2 men. So they had no motivation to go inside. They said, okay, we'll go to the other neighborhoods. But after 5 hours, I heard like the noise getting a little less terrorists in the area. And then when I started to get really afraid, because when I heard like the firing and the shouting, I was like in survival mode. But when it started to be quiet, I started to be more and more afraid. And then I decided to run to my friend's apartment. I talked to him. He told me that he's with his sister. They have like a Swiss knife and they can close the safe room door. So I said, okay, I'm coming to you. It was like 200 meters for me, but I said, I don't care. I'm just going. I took a knife from the kitchen, said, Al Chaim Val Hamavet, like that, and just ran outside, barefooted with my pajama. I heard like a lot of firing all around me. I was sure that they're shooting at me, but now I'm not so sure about it. It just, in that moment, it felt like it. But eventually, when I got like to a junction before my friend's apartment, I looked to my left, and 10 meters from me, 10, 15 meters, was a terrorist with an RPG on his shoulder with his back to me. he didn't see me. That was my miracle. I just my breath stopped for a minute, for a second, because I knew that the terrorists are in the kibbutz, but to see it with my own eyes, in a road that I took a million times to see a terrorist with an RPG was awful. But I continued, went to my friend's apartment, and I stayed there for 5 more hours. The terrorists came there. It wasn't that smart to go there, but as I said, if I'm here speaking to you, that I'm not thinking about it twice. In 4:30 p.m., soldiers came to rescue us. When we opened, eventually they convinced us that it's okay, and they're from the IDF. And when we opened the safe room door, we saw 2 terrorists, one inside our apartment and one just outside. They tried to come inside our apartment, but one of my friends who had a weapon and was fighting all around the kibbutz that day. He killed them and basically saved our lives. Yeah, so we stayed there for like 20 minutes outside the apartment, not knowing what to do, like where to go. The soldiers were really like afraid and not knowing the kibbutz, not knowing where they should take us. But eventually, I just told them, take the others outside the kibbutz, and some of you come with me, and let's just go all around the area where people, like I wrote on the WhatsApp groups, I told my friends, if you are in Be'eri, tell me, and I come to rescue you. So I went with 4 soldiers all around the young people neighborhood, and we got 15 people out. In that way, eventually we just walked outside the kibbutz under fire. 2 or 3 times the terrorists came and tried to shoot at us. The soldiers returned fire, and that's how we got out, running. Then I got out of the kibbutz. They told us that we need to be evacuated, to Tel Aviv, to some other areas in Israel. But I said I'm never going to leave until my family is out. So I just stayed there. I didn't say, but during all that day, I had an agreement. People always ask me, like, if I was feeling afraid or scared during that day. I said saying that almost never, because all the time I felt like I'm in Tel Aviv or Los Angeles or something like this, and just thinking about my family, because terrorists are inside their house trying to open the safe room door, and I'm just thinking, okay, the next minute is the last minute of their life. So I had an agreement with my brother's girlfriend, because they were all on the safe room door handle. I had an agreement with Asaf's girlfriend, Idan, that every 1 minute she has to send me something, like a text or a dot or an emoji or something that I know they're okay. Needless to say that for a lot of times she never sent me anything. There were like 20 or 30 minutes that no one is answering me. And for me, it's not like I'm a little scared that something is wrong. And, I was certain that they are dead. I started to cry and, picturing myself at the funerals, like standing in front of their graves, 5 graves, or standing alone at the altar, stuff like this. I was sure that they were all gone, but then eventually one of them was sending me something, and then I knew they were okay. Around 8:30 p.m., the last phone battery was gone, so I couldn't communicate with them anymore. And that was the hardest 3 hours of that day, because up until then, every now and then they would send me something, so I know, okay, they are okay. But in 8:30, I said, okay, I can't communicate with them anymore. And the last thing I know is that the terrorists are inside the house. After 2 or 3 more hours, around 11 p.m., I was exhausted. I never ate or drank anything during that day. And I was so pessimistic about the whole situation, because all that hours I tried to convince the officers and soldiers of the IDF that were outside of the kibbutz to come inside and help my family. I was just screaming at everyone, saying to them, this is the house, there are 5 people there, the terrorists are there, go there to help them. And they were saying to me, okay, we're going, tell them 5 or 10 minutes we are there. And I'm telling my family, hold on, in 5 minutes they're coming for you. And then no one came. My brother even told me, like, eventually he said, stop lying to us. Okay, you're just demolishing and you're just saying these lies for us to stay strong, but they're not coming. And I was sure that they are coming. I wasn't lying. So eventually at around 11 p.m., I was just exhausted, sitting at a rock on the side, just crying. Then I felt like someone put his hand on my shoulder. I looked up and I saw who later I learned was Elchanan Kalmanzon. I'm sure some of you heard of him. Him and his brother Menachem, the Kalmanzons from Judah Seminary, one of the settlements. They heard everything that happened, and they decided to come to Be'eri to help the rescue. And they rescued over 100 people that day in Be'eri. They were civilians, yeah, not IDF soldiers or something. So he saw me, he put his hand on my shoulder. He asked me what's wrong. I told him, and he said, okay, I'm going to rescue them. Just give me a minute to go to get an approval from that officer, and I'm going inside. And he went to talk to the officer, and then he came back, and suddenly he didn't look me in the eyes anymore. He stared like on the floor, and he said very quietly, he said, I'm sorry, I didn't get the approval, so I can't go inside. And when I heard that, I lost it. I started screaming and shouting, I was crying. I completely lost it. And when he saw my reaction, he then again looked me in the eyes and he said, you know what, I'm going anyway. And he asked me if I want to come with him. I said, of course. He gave me a pistol. He like very quickly showed me how to use it. And I'm reminding you, I was barefooted, like with my pajamas and a pistol. But I said, of course, I'm going in with you. Let's go save them. And when I did like the first step to go inside his SUV, one member of the emergency squad, like there were too many people from Be'eri, not really soldiers, but people with weapons that tried to fight. He fought through all that day, and then he was outside the kibbutz. He saw me trying to go inside the kibbutz and just jumped at me, put me to the ground, start wrestling me and telling me you're not going inside. I'm telling you, of course I am. I have to go save my family. But then he said the sentence that, stayed with me until today. I dream of it sometime. He said, there are hundreds of casualties on our part inside. If you go, you'll die too. So, I knew that the situation is bad, but when he told me, someone, that fought inside the kibbutz all that day, when he told me we have hundreds of murdered people inside, I just froze and I gave up. And the Kalmanzons went inside the kibbutz without me. And then there were like the most horrible 20 minutes of my life because just was going all around, couldn't see it. I remember there was like someone was shouting there is a terrorist here, and everyone was lying on the ground, and I didn't hear it. I was just thinking about my family, and someone just put me to the ground. But there were like red alerts, and I didn't hear it at all. But then after 20 minutes, one of my friends was next to me. He pointed inside the kibbutz, and he told me, hey, I can see your brother. And then I looked inside, and I saw them going down out of the vehicle one by one. And I always say it was like an Hollywood movie, but the most cheesy one, like there's too much, because if you put it like in slow motion and with violins on the background, it really is something, because I just ran inside the kibbutz. One of the soldiers tried to hold me because we couldn't go inside because there are terrorists, and just released for me, jumping over bodies and just running to them, hugging them, and really, imagine the most cheesy Hollywood movie. That's our story, how it ended eventually when we are all okay. Then we started to learn, about all the people that were killed. He thought, because he wasn't with his phone doing all that day, he thought that the terrorists are only in their area. He didn't know what's happening in all of the kibbutz. So when I told him that I saw this one's body or this one, he just fell on the ground and started to understand what's going on. Earlier he told you about our neighbors that were killed, all the family that were killed, the Evan family. We met with the two younger boys. They were 8 and 12 back then. And we saw them crying, and we asked them what's wrong, where mom, where is dad? And I remember him telling us that mom was injured in the stomach, and Ido, one of the other brothers, got a bullet in his mouth. So, just hearing this was awful. This is the only pictures we have from that day for the safe room. Okay, you can see my mom, dad, Dan, they were sitting there. There was no electricity very early in the morning. They went inside, with their underwear because they started going in for a minute and stayed there for over 16 hours. Okay, so they had no water, no clothes, nothing, no charges for the phone, even though the electricity was down. So you can see them. This is the door, okay? And they had to stand in front of it. So if the terrorists were shooting at the door, they would be getting hit. And there you can see Dan covering her mouth and nose because of the smoke. And this is the pictures. So this is the first picture I took and it's like 2 minutes after the rescue. Okay, you can see these are people who went through something during that day. You can see on my father's face. This is how it looked like. Okay, and then eventually at around 1 a.m., between the 7th and the 8th, we got to Netivot. Netivot is like 10-minute drive from Be'eri, but it was okay there, no terrorists. They just put us in a gym, and the people of Netivot just came in, 1 in the morning, yeah? They just came and gave us some food and clothes and water, and just, we're trying to understand what's going on. This is how it looks like. And then eventually at around 2:30, they told us that there is a bus to an hotel in the Dead Sea, and we just didn't know what to do. So we said, okay, we'll go there, and we'll see. Tomorrow we leave, and then we stay there for over a year. So this is for Monday morning, okay, October 9th. The government was gone. They didn't help us at all, but good men just came, good people from all over Israel just came and brought us stuff. And this is how it looks like, at the first days, you just come and take some toothpaste and underwear and I don't know, everything a man needs to live. And this is how it looks like. We call it like refugees in our own country. Okay, so as we said, there were 5 in my parents' house, and I was in another part, and Yotam was in Japan. Okay, so a few days later, he decided, of course, he would come back to Israel, and this is the first picture of all of us together. I remember this morning very vividly because every morning you started to hear the rumors about the people who's been killed because we had like a chart, an Excel charts of the people who are missing, the people we know are kidnapped, and the people we know are murdered. And every day we just, moving names all around. So this was in the morning, and every evening for the next, 2 or 3 weeks, every evening, they would tell us to all 8:30 p.m. come to the conference room, the main conference room, and then they're naming the murdered people they recognized on that day. Okay, every day, like the first day, 3 people, and then 10, and then 50, and then 100. So you can see on our faces that it's not happy days.
You can see, right?
Yeah, of course.
No, I wrote it because I know my English is so bad. So the initial feeling of relief and joy that we survived faded as the tragedy began to unfold and we understood how many of our friends were murdered. I mean, we really felt like happy when we survived, but when we started to, like from the picture that you saw in the area that they gathered us after we got out, we saw that we are not seeing all the people. I mean, I saw one man and I didn't see his wife. So I didn't ask where is she because I began to understand that not all of us survived. And in the days that come after, it's like being clear because you don't see your friends. We didn't know yet what happened to all of them. What Amos said that there were. I've been to a crew that deal with the injured families. So we have like 3 Excel, like unconnected people. We didn't know about murder, okay? Unconnected, kidnap, and murder. And each day we move names from one Excel to another. And then there were the funerals, okay? So it was 1 funeral, 2 funerals a day, 3 funerals, and the peak was 17 funerals at the same day. And we have to decide which funeral we are going to, because these members of the kibbutz were like family. And it was so hard to decide whose funeral you will go to. I cannot describe it, how hard it was. Okay.
Yeah, this is our home. Was our home. This is the second floor. Later, like on Sunday morning, the terrorist was there and they couldn't kill them all, so a tank came and just shot at the second floor. So this is how it looks like. You can see the stairs. This is the kitchen, also the kitchen. This is the balcony, and oven. Okay, now we have a guided tour from a soldier that on Monday morning, he was the first one to come to our house and he made a video and sent us. So this is the video. See, again, this is the living room and the kitchen. Here's the piano. The refrigerator, the oven, the dishwasher. Now we start going to the safe room. And you can see, we always say it's like a commercial for safe rooms because all the house is all black and you can see the safe room almost clean. It's checking to see if there are bullets. I remind you, this is Monday morning, 2 days ago. This is my parents' bedroom. So this is pictures of all we lost that day, 102 people. And as my mom said, it's not like you're losing 102 people from your neighborhood, from your city, I don't know, from your community. It's 102 people from your family. That's how we feel. Every person here I can talk about for hours. Unfortunately, we don't have time for it, but you can see, just try to grasp all that lost. And we have, as I said, 102 murdered. 10 underneath the age of 18. The younger one was 10 months, and the oldest was 86. So now we do a little shift and talk a little bit about the present and the future. Try to give you some optimistic look about everything. This is the new neighborhood we call it. They built for us in Hatzerim. Hatzerim is a kibbutz very similar to Be'eri, much closer to Be'er Sheva, if you know, to the east part of Israel. Only 40 minutes from Be'eri, so it's easy for the people who live there, like my parents, to come every morning to work in the kibbutz. It doesn't look that good. It doesn't feel like home yet that much, but little by little we build it. 700 people live here from Be'eri. 100 more live in Be'eri itself, when in the houses that weren't burned down, and 300 more are all around Israel. Okay, so we have buses that comes every morning from Hatzerim to Be'eri for people to work. The printing factory, which is our main, income vehicle, was returned to work on October 17th. Okay, 10 days after. Our CEO in the morning he learned that his mother was killed in the morning of the 16th. Okay, in the evening he talked to all of his the CFOs and all of the others, and they decided that the next morning they will open the printing house, and there's going back to work. And it symbolized for the whole area, all of the country, all of the world, that we are back and we're gonna be back. And I came, I remember making phone calls for the other employees to try to convince them to come to work in Be'eri. And first, you hear some no's, but most part we heard yes from people not from Be'eri, yes, people from all around of the south of Israel. I called them and I asked if they are willing to come to work, and they said, of course. And in the first days you come by like shielded bus and stuff like this, because it's not safe there, and soldiers going with you everywhere you go. But then day by day we managed to get the control back on our kibbutz, get the soldiers out, and now you can see the dining room full at lunches, 300, 400, 500 people there. Because we have to continue living, and for me personally, to go to Be'eri every day, it's like part of my healing process, to be there, to see the places, to see the people, feel belong. It's everything to me. So these are the hostages remain from Be'eri. It's not that accurate because time is gone, but as I said, 30 were taken. Some of them came back in the first hostages deal in November 23, in December, and others, this is before the second deal, okay? Since this picture, Dror, okay, is murdered, he was murdered, his body is still there. Oad Ben Ami returned in the second deal, our neighbor. Star was a friend of mine, 2 years younger than me. His brother was murdered and he was taken alive. And when the IDF tried to get him out in a special operation, the captors just murdered him, executed him, and his body is still in Gaza. One of my father's best friends was murdered on that day, and his body was taken to Gaza. Carmel, she was still alive in this picture, but later on, she was one of the hostages, the 6 hostages that were in the tunnel that were executed later with the Hirsch, Goldberg, Poland. So she was murdered and her body was returned. Alon was murdered on that day and his body is still there. Itai was kidnapped alive and in the 99th day, the Air Force hit the place they were hiding there alongside Yossi Sharabi and Noav Gamani. Yossi was killed in that bombing, and the captures of Itai was very anxious about everything that happened, so he just executed him. And his body was returned to Israel. Tal is one of my best friends. I worked with him for 3 years in the printing factory. He was kidnapped alongside his whole family, his wife Adi, his son Nave was 8 when he was kidnapped, now he's 10, and his daughter Yahel was 3 when she was kidnapped. Okay, so he was released in the second deal. He's home. He was the last living hostage from Be'eri. I remember it very vividly when he returned. For the first time I felt like I can breathe, because up until that day, he was released after 505 days. Up until that day, every time I ate something, drank water, went to bed, I couldn't stop thinking of him, what's going on with him, where he is, if he's safe. And then when he returned, it meant everything for me. Eli Sharabi, Yossi's brother, he was kidnapped. All of his family, his wife Lian and his 2 daughters were murdered on that day. He didn't know that all the time he was in captivity. And when he came back in the second deal, he immediately said, when I'm gonna meet my family, where are they? And then they had to tell him that his whole family was murdered. So he is back home. Yossi, I talk about him. And Ofra, also a good friend of us. She was a very sportive woman. And at 6 a.m. on that day, she went for the usual walk in the fields of Be'eri. The fields are between Be'eri and Gaza. Okay, so she went in the direction of Gaza. And then she called her son and saying that some Bedouins were shooting at her. She didn't know what's going on, and she was killed, and her body is still in Gaza. So this is from Be'eri. This one, the big photo is of Tal Haimi. Tal is my cousin's husband. Well, my cousin's husband from my mother's side. They are from another kibbutz, 30 minutes south to Be'eri, near Yitzhak. He was in the emergency squad. He went out to fight for 2 months. We thought he's alive, we knew he was taken, but we thought he was alive. And then someone found his helmet with a bone from the head, and the scientists and the doctors, and the rabbis, determined that he is dead. So his body is still there. That's the main reason I'm doing this. It's not easy for me, for us, to talk about that day, to talk about our friends, to talk about Be'eri. But for me, maybe the only reason I'm doing this is to speak about these people. It's easy to forget that they are not just faces on the screen. They are real people who lived a full life, and they deserve the living ones to go back to their lives, and the dead ones to be buried properly in Israel. This is Ella, my cousin, with Tal and their children. Since then, on October 7th, when Tal was killed, Ella was pregnant already, one month, I think, 2 months. So they have another baby who will never meet his father. But to emphasize how important it is for everyone, for us especially, that all of the hostages will come back, even the dead ones, is look at these kids, mid ages.
The twins are
Nira and Einav, the twins are
11.
11.
And Udi is 9.
Udi is 9, and Lotan, the baby, almost
1.
2. Yeah.
No, 1 year.
Okay.
2.
Okay. And And all the children, every time we meet them and they're telling Ella, they're saying, how do you know he's dead? We don't believe you. You will see he will come back alive. Okay, so this is to emphasize how important it is to bring everyone back, because they can't believe until this day, they can't believe that their father is dead. Okay, they're saying he's going to be back alive. And so obviously they can start, rebuilding their life or grow like a normal children, 11 and 9 years old. מה אתם אומרים? אולי בשאלות.
בשאלות. נחזור לזה.
עוד אחד? לא, עוד אחד למעלה. לאחור. Okay, so essentially, I'm kidding. I said everything I wanted. If you have questions, feel free. For everyone, even you.
Even you.
No.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I have one. So it's a miracle, but how do you explain that the factory was untouched, the printing house? Why didn't they go after it? Was it protected, a fence or something? Yeah?
We just think the terrorist was looking to, living people. They were looking to kidnap or kill.
Nobody was in the
There were two terrorists who were inside the factory, just walking around, seeing that no one is there, and just leaving. If they were burning the factory down,
There were one girl in the reception.
Yeah, she was in the reception, but she was hiding and they couldn't find her, so they thought it was empty. It was Saturday, I remind you, so no one was walking. So that's why we didn't touch it.
Did you say that the safe house had a window?
Yeah.
And what does that mean in terms of them coming in?
So at the safe room window, he has like an iron closing, so it's also protected. So they closed it very early in the morning, because they close it even when there are rockets, because of the explosion. So it was closed. And they even threw a grenade at the window at some point, but it held on.
What's going to happen to the houses? Are they going to rebuild them?
Oh, that's a good question, because like good Jews, we have too many opinions, and no one can decide. Mainly the people who live already in Be'eri want everything to be, turned down and to build it again. But a lot of us, we are in the group who thinks that it's important to leave something behind. They want to make our house into a museum, maybe, because it's important, for people to see exactly what happened. So it's an argument. We can't decide. And we'll see.
Can you tell us if we can help with something? There is something that we can do?
Yeah, so they always mad at me when I'm saying this, but I really feel like I'm the wrong one to answer it, because for me, I think very strongly that Be'eri will be okay. I worry more about like Niroz and Paraza, the other people in the area are severely affected. We didn't speak about them at all. We didn't speak about the Nova at all. We only spoke about our story. But for me personally, the most important thing is to speak about the hostages, know their stories, know their names, okay? Go to demonstrations and just never forget about them, because we sometimes feel like, in Israel, yes, but sometimes we feel like somehow being forgotten, and we're, the families and all of us really terrified of the fact that some of them will never come back. So that's personally for me. Of course, there are a lot of good people that donate money for every cause, to Nova, to Be'eri, to private people. So you can do whatever you feel right. But for me, the first thing you need to do is to know these stories, to know these names, to speak about them everywhere and every opportunity you get.
I have a question.
You want to answer?
I know what you mean by asking that, but just it's too shy to say, but we have many, many challenges. We have two places with people that we need to build Be'eri again. It's been to build the kindergarten again because they are ruined and the neighborhood, and it's a lot of money. We have to keep the Hatzerim area like with the kindergarten, and so we have two places that we need to renovate and to build again. And Hatzerim is okay now, but very just to imagine, you saw some photos only of our house, but we need to build kindergartens, many, many houses for us to return to our home. Okay, so it's, many, many challenges of the kibbutz facing that of course need help, but we have donation from all over the world, so we are okay.
I have a question. I know that a lot of people on the kibbutz were believed in peace with the Palestinians and with Vivian Silver.
Oh,
Do most people who are still gonna go back there to live feel the same way that they did before October 7th?
Yeah, so I think around 80% the people of Be'eri are were before October 7th were left wing. Especially, you know, there are a lot of like Vivian and other women that volunteered every week to take sick children or people from Gaza, from the Gaza border to hospitals in Israel, volunteered to do that, and they were also got murdered. So I know a lot of my friends, people who lost family members, saying that they were left wing before, and now they just don't care about them at all and want everyone to be dead. So I will speak only for me now and for maybe family, if you allow me to. You know, at the end of the day, there's no other alternative than peace. We have to keep hoping for it. I don't think that tomorrow morning we can lay down our weapons and saying, let's hug everyone and everything will be okay. But we can't live our life, especially in this region, without even hoping that someday in our lifetime the peace will come. A lot of people saying that they will never come back as long as Hamas is there, and I can relate to it, like I can understand that. But at the end of the day, I don't see any solution or how the war can bring the situation to that there are no terrorists on the other side of the border. I don't see, like, every time we hear the word, like, we have to win the war. What win means? For us, win means getting the hostages back. We don't think about the other stuff. We're not politicians or statesmen. We don't, like, for us, win means bringing the hostages back. And, you know, of course, we want all of the terrorists to kill all the terrorists, and there will be no weapons on the other side of the border, but I don't see it like a possibility. So let's think first getting the hostages back, and then let's see what to do. Yeah. Yeah, so she asked about for my generation, like the young people. I think, like at first, the first year or so, the young people of Be'eri came and, you know, came back to the kibbutz. People who didn't live there before came to the kibbutz to rebuild it, and it showed me, even though I know how important the kibbutz is to every one of us. Like, you know, my mom's parents were among the founders of Be'eri, but for all of us who lived there before, Be'eri is bigger than us, and, you know, 33 people from the IDF, like soldiers and etc., were killed on October 7th in Be'eri. So, like, במותם ציוו לנו את החיים. I don't see myself living anywhere else, not because I want to, or because it's my home, but because it's my obligation, or my life's mission is to rebuild Be'eri and make it better, prettier, and I don't know, richer than it was before. So I think this is the main theme for my generation, even though, as I said, for families with babies or small children to go back now to live in Be'eri, it's not something they can even imagine themselves, because we still have a war going on. Now every day we're in Be'eri, we can hear the explosions from Gaza. So it's not a place to raise children now, but we have to hope that in 3, 4, 5 years when we come back to live in Be'eri, because now they're building 2 new neighborhoods instead of the neighborhoods that were completely ruined. So we have to hope that in 4 years, Be'eri will be like a safe place to live.
So I suggest, I know some of you might have more questions, but I think maybe it's a good opportunity to wrap up and give you guys an opportunity to meet and talk directly. Right? Thank you so much for sharing.